injuries because to me, it is a dangerous line of work. Let me share something what a doctor once told me, who did my reconstructive knee surgery for me when I was in Philadelphia. And at the time he was the doctor actually for the Philadelphia Eagles, but very good doctor. So I have no qualms, no issues with him. But I remember going to see him. I want to say it was about a year or so after my surgery, maybe 2 years after, maybe like 2 years after my major reconstructive knee surgery. I had torn, two ligaments, both pieces of cartilage. I had to reconstruct the whole thing and, splice my tendon and thread it through some holes and tie a knot and extensive rehab, the whole thing. But he made a big, strong knee, and I have a big, I was a big dude, big body, big leg, and he had to put it all together, and it all went well. Range of motion is not fantastic, but a lot of that is on the patient in terms of, how aggressively you rehab it. And if you don't create that range of motion early on, they say you never really get it back. So I've got decent range of motion, but it's not, I never got it back to 100% range of motion. But having said all the above, I remember going to see the doctor one day, and I was like, doc, I'm here, and I got my ankles bothering me a little bit, my knee, and this, that, and the other thing, and I'm complaining of some arthritis and some pain. And the doctor, he was a little short dude. He was kind of, nice guy, very, very nice guy, but he was a little short dude, well-dressed. And he looked at me, and his nurse was in the office, and he was like, hey, Mike. He was kind of like Danny DeVito. He looked at me and he was like, hey, Mike, you know what I don't get about you? He was like, you come into my office. He's like, and you're here, it's like you're almost like you're complaining, like you got an injury or you got something wrong or you got some pain, like I've got something that can fix this. He's like, Mike, he said, you played a big, violent sport. That's what you did. He said, you know what you did when you did it? You got hurt. A lot of people get hurt, and you guys keep on playing anyway. He said, you already got hurt. You reconstructed your knee. He said, you came back out here. He said, you're getting hurt again. He said, and now you're coming to me and you're looking for like a magic pill. He's like, what do you want me to tell you? He's like, you played football. You knew it was a violent game. You got jacked up. You got hurt. What do you want? He said, I got guys in my lobby who are walking around, who are guys your age, who are 20 years old, walking around with a cane. They're going to have a limp for the rest of their life. He said, you're telling me you got a little arthritis in your ankle and your knee. I'm telling you, get the hell out of my office. He was like, seriously. He was like, get the hell out of here. He was like, there's nothing I can do for you. There's nothing. I got nothing here for you. Just get up out of here. Take some Advil and keep it moving, bro. and at the time, it sounds a little bit rough, but that was like 1,000% what he told me. And he was like, you just, you got to go. You got to suck it up. There is nothing else to do here but suck it up for the rest of life. That's your package now. You're 20 years old. If that's how you feel now, it's only going to get worse. So your disposition just needs to get better. That's all. That's all there is. And so that was kind of like that was kind of a wake up call and a dose of reality from an injury perspective. And then what I would also say, that was my own, personal kind of slap around from a doctor. But what I would also say is that for those who just feel that football ought to stop being played because it's just too dangerous, to me, I don't want to say that it's stupid, but I do want to kind of say that it's stupid. I think it's a stupid thing for people to say only from the perspective that there are so many dangerous professions out here that people do every single day. And it just seems like the football haters of the world just want to take shots at the NFL because they want to act like, oh, the NFL is the boogeyman. But, there's dudes who work on oil rigs. There's women and men who work on oil rigs. People work on skyscrapers. People still work as coal miners. People got legendary songs for generations about working as coal miners and people dying in coal mines and getting black lung and everything else. And they're still doing it. They're still doing it. You go to West Virginia, that's still a legitimate gig. In other parts of this country, but people are still doing it. How about MMA? You know, they got MMA fighters out here who are taking all kinds of headshots. I mean, and when these dudes get knocked out in the MMA, I mean, when you see one of these guys jump at the other guy, or you know, again, I don't want to say guys, but I use guys sometimes, really for both sexes generically. But when you see a guy or a person jump up and kick somebody with a knee or their foot or their calf bone in the side of somebody's head and give them like whiplash in MMA, I mean, what the hell are we talking about? That's a headshot, man. When you get hit with a leg in the head and you got no helmet, that's a major headshot. Or race car driving, or still boxing to this day. There's guys who are skydiving. You know, there's people who are skydiving still. They haven't banned skydiving. I mean, I don't know how many people are doing it professionally, but certain people, obviously, people are certainly doing it as a vocation and something they just want to do on their own leisure time. But they're jumping, you know, they're jumping out and skydiving and putting on GoPros. I saw a documentary the other day that I could not believe. But this whole thing with the X Games, you know, there's summer X Games, winter X Games. I think most of the cases of paralysis, I think, are coming from winter X more so than summer X, or maybe it's about 50-50, I don't know. But there is actually, within the X Games itself, there are actually several competitions amongst those people who have become paralyzed while participating in the X Games and or preparing to participate in the X Games. So that they are literally having a race amongst themselves on these, like, you know, snowmobiles that have been adjusted to equip, you know, whatever injuries. Most of these people have broken backs and may have use of their upper bodies, so they can still control a snowmobile, and somehow they're like strapped to the snowmobile on some special chair or what have you. Of I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, and these guys are still racing. They're still racing. So, and then of course there's other stuff like mountain climbing. But I just look at all the sports in totality, and I just say, when folks want to say we need to stop playing football because it's too dangerous, those are just people who are football haters and just completely irrational to me. Completely irrational. You should not stop playing football. Take precautions, learn how to tackle people better. Like I said in last week's show, I think what the Ivy League is doing with Ivy League football is 100% wrong, and I think it is stupid. I mean, I'll go to something that Richard Sherman said today. Richard Sherman for the Seattle Seahawks, I'm just drawing an analogy from something he was saying today, but Richard Sherman from the Seattle Seahawks was talking about Roger Goodell, and he was saying, you know what? I think that Roger Goodell and the people who made the policy about what's a legitimate catch in the NFL in terms of catching the football, he said, I think those guys have never played football. They've never played, and I think what he said was that he thinks Roger Goodell is a suit, quote unquote, and that he shouldn't be making policy. Well, number one, Richard Sherman is dead wrong, because Roger Goodell is thorough enough, and the NFL is thorough enough that they didn't make the decision. He didn't sit there in a room by himself and make the decision. So for a bright guy, which Richard Sherman is, as a graduate of Stanford, it's pretty disappointing that he's going to say something that stupid to say, well, I think Roger Goodell is just making up this policy on his own, and that he's never played football. Roger did consult with all kinds of best and brightest of NFL greats, including like 3 or 4 NFL Hall of Famers, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Steve Largent, former congressman, and Jordy Nelson, a current player. So it's not just a suit thing or guys who never played. Now, so I'm going to say so I'm saying about Richard Sherman's thing that I think he was wrong to say that about Roger Goodell. Now I'm going to turn around and say the same thing about the people who created the policy for the Ivy League. I believe that they probably have never actually played football. Now again, I could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm guilty of the same thing of Richard. So I'm saying what he said is dumb, and I'm arguably saying something that may be dumb also. in that maybe the Ivy League guys have consulted with somebody who played, but I just know as a guy who personally played football in the Ivy League, I think to not have guys practice football and just expect that somehow they got to college and they must be able to play, so let's just throw them out there on the field. I think that is incredibly reckless, because there's guys who are not that big in high school, or maybe didn't play for whatever reason in high school. Maybe they grew a couple of inches, got a little bit taller, put on a couple of pounds, and said, what the heck? Let me go out and try and make the team. I mean, it's not like we got a scholarship program at Ivy Leagues. So, everybody's basically a walk-on anyway. You got some guys who are a little bit more heavily recruited than others, but nobody's got scholarships. So you can just walk on. Anybody can walk on. So now you're going to have guys walking on, and you're assuming that they all know how to tackle, so you're not going to teach any of them how to tackle? They're never going to practice how to tackle. And they're just going to go out and try and get right on Saturday? That, to me, is going to bring about an injury for somebody. And it's going to be a problem down the road. All right. The next thing I want to discuss is my 6-minute subject of the week. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Well. Here we go. Oh, you missed the show. No, we did it. Well, for 6 minutes this week, I need to discuss my man, Adam Laroche from the Chicago White Sox. Last week, I brought up a new symbol, coined a new phrase. Kind of proud of it. Still need to get some hats and t-shirts made up. Hashtag PBJ. Hashtag PBJ. That is that's my rollout for Twitter. Hashtag pure breed jackass. Adam Laroche, you're at the top of the list, my friend. You're at the top of the list this week, because what you did is all PBJ. This is first team all PBJ, brother. For those who are not in the loop, Adam Laroche is was a Major League Baseball player for the Chicago Cubs. Chicago White Sox. He was batting .207. I think he plays second base. He's an infielder, but I believe he plays second base. Was batting .207, which is fairly piss poor, but he's been in the league for a while. He was making $13 million a year. And Adam Laroche was accustomed to bringing his son to work every day. Chew on that for a second. Go ahead. Chew on that. Digest that. Adam Laroche was accustomed to bringing his son to work every day. Now, and that's not just bringing him to work and like putting him. That's not like bringing him to work at Google, where they've got a couple thousand people in the building and they've got a nursery for your 2-year-old on the ground floor, and everybody checks in their kids and goes to work for the day, and then you go down and play with them at lunchtime and change their diaper and read a book to them. No. That's not what this is, folks. That is not what this is. So that's not, bringing your toddler to work and there's provisions for them. That's a different story. There's some big companies, tech companies and all kinds of companies who believe in quality of life and campus and lifestyle and stuff, and they make all kinds of provisions for people with young families in terms of nurseries and that kind of stuff. That is a very, very different thing. There are also some places where, especially during summer months or something, where people may say, hey, look,